What kind of man stands in a courtroom, looks his own son in the eye, and calls him a stranger? My name is Rachel, and 8 months ago, my husband stood before a judge and said the boy I raised for 6 years wasn't his. He said it to protect another child. A child that wasn't even his to protect. But truth has a strange habit of showing up exactly when you need it most. Usually in a sealed envelope, read out loud, in front of everyone who doubted you. I met Marcus when our son, Ethan, was already 2 years old. His biological father had left before Ethan was even born, and Marcus stepped in without hesitation. He was at every school play, every fever at 2 a.m., every birthday candle blown out. For 6 years, Dad wasn't a biological title in our house. It was a name Ethan gave to the man who showed up. Marcus legally adopted Ethan when he was 4. We built our whole life around that decision. I trusted him with everything, our finances, our future, our son's heart. Then Marcus started a new job at a marketing firm downtown. That's where he met Priya, a co-worker he described as just a friend going through a rough divorce. I believed him, the way you believe someone you've built 6 years of trust with. I didn't know that trust was already starting to crack behind closed office doors. The late nights started slowly. First it was team deadlines. Then it became weekend client emergencies. I noticed Marcus growing distant with Ethan too. Shorter conversations, missed bedtime stories, a tiredness in his eyes that had nothing to do with work. Then Priya had a baby. She told colleagues the father wasn't in the picture. Marcus never mentioned her pregnancy to me, not once. I found out through a baby shower invitation, accidentally left open on his phone screen, addressed to him as Uncle Marcus. Uncles don't usually get invited to hold the baby for hospital photos. But something told me not to ask directly yet. Instead, I started paying closer attention. Calendar entries labeled with initials. Recurring charges to a daycare I didn't recognize. A second phone number saved under a fake contact name. When I finally confronted him, expecting an argument about an affair, I got something far worse. Marcus admitted he was Priya's baby's father. But that wasn't the part that broke me. What broke me came 3 weeks later, when he filed for divorce and requested full custody of Priya's daughter while simultaneously asking the court to terminate his parental rights to Ethan. His reasoning, written in his own legal filing, said Ethan was never biologically his and that continuing the adoption created a financial and emotional conflict with his new family responsibilities. 6 years of birthdays, fevers, science fairs, and bedtime stories, erased in a single paragraph so he could redirect his time, money, and image toward a baby with Priya. Ethan asked me one night, "Is Dad still my dad?" I didn't have an answer that wouldn't break both our hearts. I sat across from Marcus's lawyer in mediation, listening to them describe my son as a prior familial obligation, as if 6 years of fatherhood could be filed away like an old contract. Priya, meanwhile, was already planning a public announcement for her daughter's first birthday, hinting to friends that Marcus was finally choosing his real family. I realized then this wasn't just a custody battle. This was an attempt to rewrite history in front of a judge, and I was the only one who still remembered the truth. I didn't want to fight with anger. I wanted the truth to speak for itself, clearly and legally, where it couldn't be twisted again. First, I contacted our family lawyer and gathered every piece of documented history. The signed adoption papers, 6 years of school records listing Marcus as legal guardian, therapy session notes where Ethan called him Dad, and financial records showing Marcus's consistent contributions to Ethan's care. Second, since Marcus's legal team argued biology should override the adoption, I requested something they didn't expect, a court-ordered DNA test, not for Ethan, but for Priya's daughter. Priya had always publicly implied Marcus was the only possible father. If Marcus was so focused on biology deciding fatherhood, I decided biology should be tested fully, on both sides of this case. Third, I prepared a written statement from Ethan's school counselor, documenting the emotional impact of Marcus's sudden withdrawal, ensuring the court understood the human cost behind the legal paperwork. I wasn't trying to destroy Marcus. I was trying to make sure the truth couldn't be filed away and ignored a second time. The custody hearing took place on a gray Tuesday morning. Marcus sat beside his lawyer, confident, holding printed statements about biological priority and financial restructuring. Priya sat 2 rows back, dressed sharply, already treating the outcome as decided. My lawyer presented Ethan's adoption certificate first, reminding the court that under state law, a finalized adoption carries the same legal weight as biological parenthood, permanently. Marcus's argument about biology legally meant nothing once that paper was signed 6 years earlier. Then came the moment neither Marcus nor Priya expected. The court-ordered DNA results for Priya's daughter were read aloud. Marcus was not the biological father. The room went completely silent. Priya's face went pale as the judge asked her directly whether she had known this possibility beforehand. She admitted, hesitantly, that there had been someone else during the same period, but she assumed Marcus was the father because of the timeline. Marcus sat frozen, staring at the paper in his lawyer's hands, the same paper he thought would help him replace one child with another. Instead, it left him with neither certainty. The judge looked directly at Marcus and reminded him that his legal son, the one he tried to walk away from, was the only child in this case with an unquestionable, signed, permanent legal bond to him. The court fully upheld Marcus's parental obligations to Ethan, ruling his adoption could not be reversed simply because it became inconvenient. He was ordered to continue full child support and maintain his legal responsibilities as Ethan's father, regardless of his personal choices moving forward. Priya, left to handle her daughter's paternity question without the certainty she had built her plans around, ended her relationship with Marcus within the month. Marcus was left having tried to trade one child for another and ending up fully responsible for the very son he tried to deny, with no new family left to replace him. I was granted primary custody of Ethan, with the court noting Marcus's documented emotional withdrawal as a factor in the final parenting arrangement. Ethan stayed in the same school, the same home, surrounded by the same stability Marcus almost took from him. Months later, Ethan stopped asking if Marcus was still his dad. He simply stopped needing the title to define his sense of home. Looking back, I understand now that fatherhood was never about biology in our story, not for Marcus when he chose to adopt Ethan, and not for the court when it upheld that bond months later. What broke wasn't a blood test. It was a promise Marcus made, and later tried to walk away from when it stopped being convenient. Here's what I learned. Legal titles, promises, and signatures exist for exactly this reason: to protect the people we love from being redefined the moment someone else's priorities change. If someone in your life has ever tried to rewrite their commitment to you as something optional, remember this. A bond built on years of showing up doesn't disappear just because someone decides to look away. Sometimes, the truth simply waits in a sealed envelope, ready to remind everyone exactly who never stopped being family.